All right, Warriors of National Guard Recruiting, we have a great opportunity this morning. This is Command Sergeant Major Retired Dave Eustace, and I am with Master Sergeant Rowe-Watson from the great state of New York. And I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit over the years from day one of being NCIC to now having a very solid track record of performance, but the rest of the country probably doesn't know you. So if you could just take a minute or so to give us your background and how you arrived at where you're at right now.
Hi, good morning, National Guard Recruiting. My name is Master Sergeant Rowe-Watson. I am the Section Chief for Team Manhattan, AKA Team Rockstars in New York City. My journey started about 18 years ago. Got hired initially as the AMED technician in the recruiting battalion. And basically my job back then was to do all of the packets for the AMED officers, all of the medical procurement officers, and did a deployment, came back from Iraq in 2004, and I've been a recruiter since. Got picked up 4 years ago, 2018, to be a section chief for Team Manhattan, and been at it ever since and very successful at it. So thanks for having me, CSM.
Well, you have a track record of getting your mission delivered early, and so that has to have to do with your philosophy on how to get this thing done. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? I'd like to highlight the track record because a lot of people will say, well, that's all well and good, but what does it do, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, it started in 2018 when Lieutenant Colonel Heyer invested in me and said, Rowe-Watson, it's your turn. And he said, how are you going to make this happen? And I stood up in front of the other section chief and the commander at the time, and I said, sir, well, one of the ways we're going to make this happen is we're going to get ahead early and we're going to stay ahead. So my vision for the team, and in regards to how you speak about buy-in and the buy-in process, you know, buy-in entails a change, right? And people don't react initially ready for change. And, you know, it was me breaking down for them how we were going to do it early and not look at, okay, September 30th, I have until September 30th to get this done. So initially we were like, we're going to do something different. We're going to try to make this mission, and we're going to make it happen in 9 months, and we're going to all be done by June, and we're going to be able to breathe, regenerate, and recuperate, and get ready for the next year. And for the last 3 years, that's what we've been able to accomplish. And it's not by just getting up and just doing whatever. It's by owning that mission, communicating, and just everybody doing their part, because at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that we're winning. And it was a good feeling from the beginning for us to start off that year. We had some bumps and bruises along the way, of course. With change, you're gonna have some pushback. But we ended up being the #1 team in the country for that year. We won the 3rd quarter challenge across the country, and we had the highest right rate. And ever since then, we've been winning challenges and doing everything that we set forth to do.
Well, you talk about winning a lot, and I think that's really important. But there's probably, you know, some section chiefs that are going to listen to this and say, well, that might work for your team. But my recruiters, if I told them we were going to get done in 9 months, they'd quit. So you talked about some of the growing pains, and you mentioned that. What kind of things are you talking about? It wasn't like you just showed up and they said, oh, we got this brilliant leader and now we're going to be successful and let's just do what she says. So how did that play out?
I got to tell you, you know, it was hard because it started off with me building my team. It was an intervention, so to speak, because my team was in part made up of 3 somewhat experienced recruiters that's been in the field for three or more years at the time. And then I had to build the team. So I had to build a team of new recruiters. Right now I have 8 recruiters. 5 of them have been recruiting under 5 years. So I think that process, having to build the team, I was able to mold those newer recruiters into the idea and say, this is what we're going to do. You know, sometimes you get pushback from a lot of the old heads. I happen to be one of those people that say, you know, we have until September 30th to make this happen. You know, fortunately for me, I was one of them that always wanted to be done with mission early because of my family. I wanted to spend time with my kids. I wanted to go a wanderlust and tour the world with them. And so I promised the idea to the team, like, listen, we're growing. Not only are we growing as a team, our family is growing. Over the past 2 years, we had 6 new babies and a total of 12, you know, so it also, a part of that was the philosophy of, okay, I'm going to prepare a better life for me and my kids.
Well, and on the front end of having the big goals, right? Everybody gets kind of excited about that, right?
Yes.
So it sounds really good. We're going to get done early,
Yeah.
and we're going to take the ruck off, and that's going to be great. And maybe you have some excitement at the beginning, and people produce.
Yeah.
At some point in time, when you're ahead a little bit, you got to deal with that complacency on the team. And so what have you done? Because you've consistently gotten your mission delivered early, but I'm certain there are periods of time when recruiters are like, hey, I'm a couple contracts up. I can back off a little bit. So how do you deal with that?
And CSM, you know, a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but I act as a leader. I say, yes, it's okay to take a break. You know, a lot of people might disagree with that, but I am from old school where I've had an opportunity to have a various amount of leadership. And some of those leadership was toxic. And you have some leaders who might not be okay with saying it's okay to take a break. It's, in my opinion, it is okay to take a break. If you have a recruiter that's been busting their butt and pulling the weight and carrying the team and carrying the state, it's okay for them to take a break. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but I'm all for when I say we're going to make mission early and everybody's going to be able to relax and enjoy their time with their family. It is what it is. And so because I have been doing that consistently and stayed true to my word, my team, they have 100% confidence and trust in me that I'm going to do what I say that I'm going to do.
I think that is a key part. Is it isn't a democracy.
Yes.
And so, because we've talked about this before, that there's a significant change when they have the achievement.
Yes.
That validates all the things that you were saying along the way, that this is going to pay off. So after getting that mission done early the first time, the people that were still on your team, in particular, some of the older recruiters, did you notice a change in how they looked at it moving forward?
Absolutely, CSM. First off, everybody likes recognition. Everybody wants to be on the winning team. And we were getting the accolades. We were really winning the incentive trips. We were getting the recognition. And that's always a good thing to have. You know, there was a buzz. There was a buzz like, how are you guys doing this? How are you, and I gotta say, there was some hate, and everybody on the team, they were happy to know that they were on the team that was winning, and we stood true to everything that we set forth to do, and we continue to do it.
Well, then it's interesting because I've been around some of your recruiters.
Yes.
When they're not around you.
Yes.
And so they will carry the message, that one of the things is that your recruiters will say is our objective is 20 enlistments every month. Every
Yes.
month. And so, but you don't get 20 enlistments every month, right?
I do not, and it's okay that we, because this is what I do, CSM, just so for everybody who wants to know it. In the back of my mind, yes, okay, we're shooting for 20. When I set out to start the year, every fiscal year, I plot our glide path for 9 months. So this year I sat down, my mission was 126. And our glide path for the month, get my calculator, was supposed to be at 14, right? So we started the year, October, we put 26 in. So that leaves us with 100 contracts. That puts our glide path for 13 enlistments to be done with mission by June. So as far as my concern, we started out the gate strong. If we continue to maintain and we continue to stay ahead and hit that glide of 13 or more contracts, we'll be done by June and our goal will be set. So even though the overall is to hit that 20, I'm still going to be satisfied as long as we hit our glide path, which is 13 for the next eight months.
And well, and that's one thing that I see as a problem all over the country is the focus on the minimum for the glide path instead of that higher number.
Well, if you think about it, CSN, that is not my minimum. If I computed my glide path for the year, I'd be 9 if I was looking at completing mission by September 30th. Mm-hmm. But I'm not looking at completing mission by September 30th. We want to be done by June.
Yeah, and it's bumped up on your team because the recruiters, your minimum right now after getting some money ahead is 13, but your recruiters are still driving for that 20. Mm-hmm. And you're not even close to the 9. That's like, we don't even talk about the 9.
We're not even talking about the 9.
And so like your peers around the country can really learn from that and I just believe it's like something that we learn when we're privates, that you show up for formation early.
Yeah.
We're going to have a final formation on 30 September all over the country. And everybody's got to have everything that they're supposed to have at that formation. All the enlistments got to be in the bag. And
that's right.
And a lot of people make a bad plan on getting done on 30 September. There's so many disasters associated with that. What you've been able to do with your team is to get them to buy into even a bigger number than your number. Mm-hmm. And we don't take away their birthday if they don't hit the 20, but everybody is bought into it. And I think it is significant that buy-in that everybody talks about. They think they're going to have the buy-in first, then we'll get the performance. But as an outside observer, what I believe you've done, and you can speak to this, is you led to the performance and then you got the buy-in and more performance. So is that an accurate picture?
It is an accurate picture. And I also want to state this because this is very important. I forgot we hosted a state the other day, and this seemed to, I don't want to call the state out, but this seemed to be a problem within that state where at the start of the year, whatever their mission was, that wasn't the case towards the end of the year, that their mission could change. And I gotta say, one thing that New York has done a phenomenal job is at the beginning of the year, we have a kickoff. This is something that we've been doing for going on our 4th year now. Section chiefs sit in a room with company commanders and the battalion commander, and we break down the mission. And at that point, that given point, that section chief owns that mission, and they take it back to their teams and they break it down. And what I appreciate over the years is that whatever mission that we got and we decided from that moment on, it never changed. And so when I did the breakdown with my team and I said, this is your individual piece of the pie and you're going to own it, and this is what we're going to do, and that never changed, it made the process even easier. So I think that has been a major factor in our success.
Well, and you know, the day-to-day operations, my observation, I'm around a lot of section chiefs in a lot of states, is what I think is discounted is the time and effort it takes to get recruiters to performance.
Yes.
And so like, what does your battle rhythm look like to get this kind of consistent performance?
It's interesting that you asked that about my battle rhythm. It really boils down to, one, you know, having a plan. If you don't have a plan to fail. And the primary focus being processing and prospecting. So if within our weekly routine, our daily routine, I'm not seeing enough of those two components, processing and prospecting, then I have to adjust and I have to reach out to the people that needs to be reached out to. Because in any given month, you're going to have the super performers, the people that are ahead and they're doing well. So those people aren't going to be my primary focus. So I'm going to focus on the ones that I'm looking in your funnel and I can see that nothing's going on. So I'm tapping you on your shoulder and we're having a conversation about what prospecting goals are we setting for that day or for that week. And we have to make sure that that picks up. I'm having conversations weekly with everybody. I'm seeing what's in everybody's funnel on a daily basis. And so you have to know your people. At the end of the day, it all boils down to knowing your people, knowing what they have, and knowing what they can do to make it happen.
Well, there's quite a bit to unpack with that answer, because one of the things that I do know happens, it just happens, and it's natural, it's human nature.
Mm-hmm.
The leader wants to spend time with the fired up people that are getting it done, because that is motivating. And that's not where the leader is needed. So that the first element is significant. As a section chief leading a recruiting team, you know who needs you. They don't have someone going to maps and they don't have a plan on prospecting. Those two things say, hey, leader, I need your attention. The second thing is that hyper focus of we have to prospect. We have to do it. And so the big disconnect, that's why we have master sergeants leading the element the size of a squad. Because if I talk to a recruiter and say, hey, how much of the day should you be prospecting? They'll tell me about half the day. Then I'll say, how much do you actually do? And it won't even be close to that. Yeah. That's where the leadership comes in. And so it's something that, that is significantly overlooked, how much work it is.
Yes.
To get somebody to produce. So like, when you're on trying to get this mission done in a 9-month period of time, how are you able to execute that with the family and kids and the whole part of it? How do you do that?
It's you got to have some planning and organization skills, and you have to communicate this on a daily basis that, hey, I can relate. I can relate to your personal stresses. I can relate to feeling burned out. And just showing the people that you lead, your human side, that you empathize. But at the same token, we all have a job to get done. You know, I did a lot of leadership research and stuff about buy-in right at the very beginning when I took this role as section chief. And I came across a Forbes, I think it was a Forbes article that talked about the buy-in process and stating your vision, communicating to your team, and what it means to be a leader. And sometimes as a leader, you're gonna put some people in an uncomfortable situation, and you're gonna remove people from their comfort zones, but that's what we do as leaders. It doesn't mean that you don't care, but you have to put your foot down when the time means, you know, you have to do it. And then knowing your people, collaborating and training your employees to the standards that you want them to. And there are going to be times when you're going to need help. You're going to face resistance and you're going to need help. At the very beginning, 2018, I said to my commander and my first sergeant, I don't know. I'm getting a lot of pushback and I don't know how we're going to be able to work this out. But, you know, 6 months later, we did, and we were the #1 team in the country.
And well, that's a big deal right there, because it identifies another shortcoming that I see a lot of, just being steadfast. You know, you got a good plan. You know the plan will work. You know what we have to do to make this happen on a day-to-day basis. And when the pushback comes, being steadfast and say, no, they put me in this job for a reason, and I know it is going to work.
Yes.
Because a lot of leaders do get negotiated out of performance.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's a significant deal that, you know, from a distance, I've been able to observe it. I can say this now. I felt like when you got hired as a section chief, you're kind of a recruiter's recruiter, right? And, but over a period of time, that in order to get to performance, you had to be a leader of recruiters. Yes. And so that relationship changes. And I think every new section chief is confronted with that. Because we got a bunch of salespeople working for us. And they said, well, you're going to change. It's like, well, I'm not going to forget where it came from, right? That's what everybody says.
Exactly.
The reality is you are going to change, or someone else is going to be doing this job. And, I think it is a credit to you of learning this, because it speaks to everybody. You got peers out there that will have this going through their head. I think I'm going to get found out. I don't know everything. Right? And you probably went through that. So how did you?
Absolutely. To this day, I don't know everything.
Yeah, and you just kind of got to power through it, right? Like,
absolutely.
Just knowing that this will work, and sticking to it is a very powerful thing. Something that I'd like you to talk about is, you kind of brushed over it earlier, is in October, your team enlisted 26 people in the month.
Yes.
So just break down how that was possible to get it done. Because there's a lot of elements to that. Having the people to process in a 20 processing day month, or 21, to get 26 enlistments. So how is that possible to get done in a month with 8 recruiters?
Well, from the very beginning, CSM, when we ended FY 2021, I'm sorry, the goal was to start FY 22 strong. We knew, our commander put it out, we're going to hit 100 contracts for October. And we knew that we had to put in some extra lifting, and we knew that we had to come out the gate strong. I mean, we started the year short. You know, I have a recruiter on con leave. I have one in drill sergeant school. So that 26 contracts, you know, really, I mean, we made it happen for everybody, but I literally had 6 recruiters in the fight. And 6 recruiters in the fight. And we just did a lot of heavy lifting. And of course, you challenged us to beat your 45 contracts. So that gave us some extra, you know, a little extra push. We might have not hit the target this year, but it's still, I'm still up for the challenge, CSM. We're going to try to hit it next October. So yeah, we just did some heavy lifting. A lot of people may say sandbag, say whatever you wanted to say. We did everything that we did for the company and the battalion to the very end, and we pushed and we worked hard, and we had a lot of people, and we still had a lot of energy left over, so that a lot of that energy carried over to October.
Well, and just to physically get 26 people processed and enlisted with 6 recruiters requires having a very good handle on each on your part. And,
absolutely.
And determining further processing for individuals. And you probably had to prevent some people from being processed because it wasn't going to be fruitful.
Yes.
And so that's an area that I do think is a shortcoming for NCIC too, is yes, we want to get people to max, but how much time do we save for a recruiter by preventing someone from processing that shouldn't process?
Yeah.
And well, and how often do you run into that you have to say, that's not going to be an enlistment, or we got to do this?
A lot. That happens every month. Every month.
And what do you say to the recruiter?
Sometimes you have to be open and honest to say, don't waste your time. Don't spin your wheels. You know, we have 2 people like that right now. Q&E, can't close the deal. Some of them, we might get them, but sometimes it's like that. And, you know, you've been in this game a long time, you know that you're going to come across people like that. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
And I'm kind of curious about this along those same lines, is getting all the recruiters' cards on the table. Who do they have? What is your process for that? Like, one of the things I like to do is say, write down everybody that you think that you can get in the Guard. There's no time on it. Tell me who it is. What do you do?
Yeah, so we have our Tuesday production meeting. So on a weekly basis, right after we're done making our phone calls and everything else, I do a similar thing. You know, we have a target on the board for appointments. And then at the end of the night, I tell everybody you write down a list of names, everybody that you're going to enlist this month. Very similar to what you said. And every month, you know, if so at the beginning of the month, you gave me 5 names. I'm constantly checking on those 5 names, or, you know, did you have more to add to the list? And, you know, for the most part, they've been consistent with the names that they've given me, and these people are getting contracted. So I know they have a handle on what it is that they're doing. And then for the ones that have weaknesses where they're continuously, the names that they're giving me aren't coming to fruition, then I know I have to focus on what's going on more with them. And that's kind of my guide. That's what I've been using to do what I need to do to pay attention to what's going on with their funnel and how they're handling stuff. If I see, okay, this person needs a waiver, what are we doing? Do you need me to push something? Do you need the commander's signature? What are we doing with this? So it's always knowing what they have and what needs some extra attention.
And moving them forward. I'm glad you mentioned
moving the process, exactly, because that's what we're there to do, to move the process, move the enlistment process forward.
And so what will happen to other NCICs, and quite frequently, is beginning of the month, I got a lot of names. We're getting towards the last week of the month. nothing has happened with those names because
Mhm.
the section chief has not moved them forward. If they need a waiver, show me the waiver. I'll get the
Mhm.
waiver approved. If
Mhm.
if we're waiting on fill in the blank, well, I can push that person to go get that thing, because if we're waiting, we're losing, and this is going to be your enlistment, one of your enlistments for the month. Well, then they got to be moving forward.
Yes,
We can't have 3 weeks period of time where we didn't have someone move forward. And if they're not moving forward, you got to find somebody else.
exactly.
And I think you've done a really good job on that. So that's probably one of the things that you forget about. Over a 4-year period of time, they've learned your standard. This is not going to fly with the master sergeant. I got to
Yes.
forget about them. I got to find someone else. So when you're having that Tuesday conversation that is now institutionalized, right? It's
Mhm.
like, I better have something good,
Yes.
right? I better have
Yes.
something that's viable to enlist. And everybody that is in your job right now can replicate that.
Mhm.
Because you didn't have any special training, did you?
I did not. I did not have any special training.
It's all OJT.
Oh, JT. Oh, JT. And you just touched on something that was very important, CSM. What I think happens in those Tuesday nights when all the recruiters are reeling down and they're going through the list of their names, I look at the faces and I look at the reactions from everybody in the room, and sometimes I see a little eyebrow raised, like, oh, I gotta get going. You know, rookie hair over here is creeping up on me. They making me look bad. So a lot of the times they're motivating each other without even knowing it.
Well, and I do think publicly, right?
Mhm.
Among the group. And I would bet for some of your seasoned recruiters, that pressure of the new motivated recruiters, like, well, I got to bump it up.
Mhm.
Which kind of brings up another point too, because I hear this very often. It's like, well, this is my team, but I have 5 recruiters that have only been recruiting for a couple of years. So how do you feel about that, of the new recruiters? If you had your choice between a team of new recruiters and a team of older recruiters, what would you pick?
Honestly, CSM, I'll take the new recruiters all day, because you get to mold them and they are more penetratable and they'll be able to get everything that you need to get done. You're going to have some resistance with the old dads. I know this because I'm one of them. I'm one of the old dads. So absolutely, give me the team with the new recruiters all day.
And I 100% agree with that. They don't have bad habits. They're still motivated. They really don't know what the job is. And I think a significant thing that happens with new recruiters is if we get them to do the prospecting based on your knowledge and experience, you'll help them get the enlistments.
Absolutely.
And through helping them get the enlistments, they really get trained. They really do get trained. They learn how to do waivers. They learn how to process people better. They learn how to get efficient building packets. They gain a sense of urgency. All those things we want them to have if they do recruiting one. They got to talk to people. They got to get in front of people. So I mean, that's been a key part to you being successful, is embracing the new kids and not putting limitations on them. And
and if I haven't said this, I have to say this before we get off here. All in all, I really do. I feel like I have the best team in the country. So I can't get off this call without saying that. They've done everything, absolutely everything I've asked them to do and more. So I'm really grateful to have the team that I have today.
Well, they got you 26 contracts in October. Folks not love them right now. Right? I mean, they got to keep on doing it, but
Yeah.
that's where the love comes from, is performance.
Yeah.
And I just got a few other things I'm just curious, is because I do think that performance thing is a big factor to all of it, So your team gets together with other teams in New York. It's a big state. There's a lot of recruiting teams, and you can tell the difference of your team and other teams. And it's a climate thing.
Yes.
So where does the climate come from? There's an argument, I think, out there where people say, well, we'll get the good climate, then we'll get the performance. Or do we get the performance, and does that create a good climate? So what do you think about that?
That is very, very interesting. One of my recruiters the other day says, Master Sergeant Rowe's love language is enlistments. So I do feel like performance absolutely impacts climate. However, you get a little bit of both. I don't feel like you get a negative climate if performance is not all the way where it needs to be. You'll have some traction and some static, yes, but I think, yes, overall performance does impact climate. When people are doing good, they feel good. And why are you gonna, be some kind of way with your people if they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing? People are gonna be free. People are gonna feel like, they're in a good space when they're doing well. There's no need to create this negative vibe, this negative space for people to be if they're doing well. If they're doing well, you leave them alone.
Well, and you mentioned that your recruiters understand that your love language is enlistment, right? But I think that's deeper. It is really, when you're working anywhere, if you know what the expectations are and it's clear, you can execute your duties more easily and more confidently. Like, it's not a moving target. You're easy to buy for Christmas. You want enlistments. For Halloween, you want enlistments. Veterans Day, enlistments. And having that expectation is not a moving target. It's not. And we get 1,000 things that we have to do as leaders. We got to get shots, and the GSA's got to get oil changes, and soldiers need PHAs and all of those things. But those things can't be emergencies, and enlistment's got to be the emergency. And I think that's one thing that your peer group around the country could grab onto. Like, this is what we're about. We're about it. And so the payoff's been really good. And so I would think it'd be interesting as we get near the end here to talk about some of the things that you've done with your team to foster that team mentality, but it also is providing the motivation. I know you guys have done a lot of stuff together as a team. So if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
So over the years, I mean, we've done trips, and I was just having a conversation about doing a family get together. COVID really kind of messed things up. We had a lot of things planned. 2020, 2021 didn't get to do much. We did get to go finally do the incentives trip, went to the Virgin Islands. 2 years ago, we did a team trip to Europe, went to Paris and Germany. I'm a big space sayer, but now that space A shut down due to COVID, we haven't been able to enjoy and do some of those things. But like I said, now that we have a family of 12 children, we're looking into planning something for the families around the holiday time frame.
Well, and that space A thing that's something that you drove, right? Like,
Absolutely.
We're figuring
Yes.
it out and we're going to Europe. The command didn't say, let's get that done.
No, we did that. We made mission early and I planned it. I was like, all right, we're done with mission. We're heading off to Europe for Oktoberfest.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I would think that in that's a struggling area for a lot of your peers too, keeping people motivated and getting them motivated. So always thinking about what the next thing is going to be to get people excited, I think is a big deal. And planning things to do as a team, getting together, having the feeling, you know, that this is a family atmosphere. It's been very positive for your team, and
Absolutely.
the results are evident. Well, I got one last question, and we'll give you an opportunity if there's something you'd like to add at the end. But what is next for this team? You wrote 26 contracts in October.
Yes.
What's the next mark that you think this team can hit? They might listen to this, you know, podcast, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I definitely think that we can overdrive and we could surpass 26 enlistments. And I want to be able to show people in this battalion that we can do this outside of the month of October, you know. So I think there is this thing that say, you know, all right, Team Rockstars always does well in October because they sandbag. So the next mark is we're going to show them that we could do this outside of the month of October. So I think we've hit every target that we set to hit every goal that we set to hit, made mission 3 times in a row, only team in the state to have done that. Every recruiter made mission. I don't know what other mark is there for us to beat. I mean, we've done it all.
Well, you got to stay at the top. When you get to the top, it's harder to stay at the top.
It is. And it gets lonely up there at the top.
That's true, but you don't want company. So just one last thing then, if you had some words of wisdom for your peers, section chiefs around the country, as this year begins, and we're still in the beginning of FY22, what would that be for them, to what they can do to turn their team around to become mission makers?
You know, I've spoken to a few section chiefs across the country, and there is this one quote, this one philosophy that stuck with me. And I think this can resonate for all section chiefs across the country. This can resonate for even the individual recruiters. General Colin Powell, rest his soul. If you ever received the email from me, I had this quote up until a month ago at the bottom of my email. And basically the quote says, there are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from your failures. So if you have failed in the past as a team, as an individual recruiter, just revisit that, revisit what happened. What can you do to perfect that and better yourselves? Because it's just, you know, success is what? The end result, right? So try to just take a look at all of your failures and everything that you've done in the past. And I think you're going to be able to find the formula for success.
Good deal. Well, I want to thank you for doing this. Your team is a great example for teams around the country. Doesn't matter if it's Manhattan or Des Moines or, you know, Idaho. It doesn't matter. If you apply those principles, you can be successful. And I wish you the, you know, even more success as the year continues, and keep on doing what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, CSM.
All right.